کنفرانس بین المللی ایران آزاد قیام برای تغییر رژیم 29 ژوئن 2018.
As a Law Society president in my day, I represented about 166,000 lawyers. Of those, only a tiny fraction are human rights lawyers, and I'm not one of them. But every single one of those 166,000 lawyers that I used to represent will tell you how important the rule of law is if you're going to have a state that is respectful of its citizenry, that looks after those who need to be looked after, that cares for its people. I was very minded when I saw the video that we've just seen how young most of the people in that video are. And I think age is a huge advantage for those people seeking to see a new regime in Iran. We have to respect the courage of those people in Iran now who are fighting to see regime change, who are fighting to see a better country, for a regime to replace a current repressive and hate-filled regime, filled with division and discord. It's very important to remember that love is a unifying factor. All of those young protesters are there because they love one another. They're there to protect, to look after, to promote, to support those whom they love. And of course, that's what we're here for too. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm very, very pleased to be here. I followed Nick as president of the Royal Society of England and Wales. I am involved with human rights work still. I'm a member of the Royal Society's Human Rights Committee. I'm also co-director of an organisation called Restored, which is a Christian charity seeking to end violence and oppression against women. Human rights are an important part of the Law Society's public interest role. And one of the things the Law Society seeks to do in particular is to highlight the arrest, trial and persecution of human rights lawyers around the world. We have a large team of volunteers who monitor, research and prepare these letters, which are then signed by the President of the Law Society for the time being. And you might say to yourselves, well, what effect does this have? Well, the truth is sometimes none, but what it does show is that there are people around the world who are watching what's happening in very difficult circumstances, and sometimes a difference is made. And of course, Iran is very high on the Royal Society's watch list. A specific example I'd like to highlight is the case of the Iranian human rights lawyer Nasrin Sotoudeh. She was arrested on the 13th of June 2018, that's only 2 weeks ago. And that's believed to be because she was representing an Iranian woman who'd been charged for peacefully protesting against Iran's compulsory hijab law. Just as I close, we've had a number of quotes from Martin Luther King, and I hope that I can share with you my favourite quote, and it's this: "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream." Now, Martin Luther King was, of course, quoting from the book of Amos, but I'm sure that's something we want to see worldwide, but specifically in what we're talking about today in Iran. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim O'Sullivan. I'm a former Treasurer of the Law Society of England and Wales, and also a public prosecutor in the United Kingdom for just under 30 years. I commend Article 6 of the 10-point plan for the future of Iran. It calls for the total independence of the judiciary. I've always believed that public prosecutors are the gateway to the criminal justice system. There can be no excuse for prosecutors permitting evidence to go before a court which has been obtained as a result of torture, inhuman or degrading treatment, or oppression. There can be no excuse for prosecutors. I support what Andrew said earlier with regard to the intimidation and persecution of human rights lawyers in Iran. It is an outrage. The manipulation of the criminal justice system is something which strikes at the very heart of notions of justice. I call upon public prosecutors everywhere to support and call for change in Iran. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm not used to public speaking, and it's the first time I've been honoured to be invited to this gathering. And my overwhelming ambition is actually to listen to learn. I find it very humbling to watch people taking their lives in their hands just to protest for rights that we take for granted. I think democracy's cornerstone is justice and human rights, and anything we can do in our humble way to help that can only be commended. Thank you.
I'm particularly proud when I see that here we have a consortium of parliamentarians, the church, sorry about that, the church, and indeed opinion formers such as Roger Lyons. That is when we are truly powerful. We should be basking in the sunshine, in every sense of that term, basking in the sunshine of a free and democratic Iran. Long have I yearned for that. May it come soon. We in my profession will spare no efforts, nor will the church, and nor will parliamentarians as represented here from various state legislations. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being here. We will win. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michelle Thompson, and I was the MP for Edinburgh West as a representative of the Scottish National Party that seeks self-determination for Scotland. Now, I was looking at this uprisings for regime change. I've been very heartened by seeing the principles that have been mentioned here, the separation of church and state, for example, and they are the ones that must prevail. So the brave people, the thinkers, as well as the people who are putting their lives on the line must also be heard, and they are all very, very brave. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the invitation to come. What we want for the people of Iran are quite simply the application of the same values and principles that are the pillars of democracy in Scotland and in Europe. But we know in Iran, in Iranian society, that women, young people, religious and ethnic minorities, dissidents, journalists and political activists are forced to live in circumstances that stifle opportunity and create unnecessary obstacles to Iran reaching its full economic and social potential. We also know from reports prepared by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch and others that there continues to be no improvement in the human rights situation. In fact, in many respects, the situation appears to grow worse. Personally, I'm particularly concerned with the number of executions, including public hangings and the execution of juveniles. History shows us that attempts to suppress the human rights of our people, always fail. Restricting access to knowledge serves only to increase awareness of wrongs committed, and restricting the communication of information serves only to make visible the strength of those that speak against abuse. I am here with my colleagues to be visible. I am here because I believe the Iranian people deserve better, and because I believe we have a valued role to play in the development of democracy in Iran. Let us work together to support those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be here. When I was a Member of Parliament, I was a Member of Parliament for a town called Kirkcaldy in Scotland, the home of that great moral philosopher and father of economics, Adam Smith. He lived in the 18th century, but I think if he was to cast his eye across Iran today and see the economic, and moral chaos that presents itself, he would be astounded that centuries later, people could be living in these circumstances. And surely it is incumbent upon us all, therefore, to raise our eyes to look to the future. I have not worked in Iran, but I have worked in Iraq and I have worked in the Yemen. And I have seen the horrible and destabilizing influence this Iranian government can have in other parts of the world that I have lived in. So I say that this is a cause today, not merely for the Iranian people, it is a cause for all people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blackman. I'm not going to be repetitive. I'm just going to tell you how happy I am to be here and to see so many of you here. And what many of us have been working along with Madam Rajbi and NCRI and thousands of Iranians to see peace in Iran and to see the overthrow of the current, I can't call it a government, the current Khomeini group that are there. I want to read for you a motion that was adopted 2 weeks ago in the House of Commons. Those of you in Parliament know what Opposition Day motions are. And to stand with the people of Iran and recognize that they, like all people, have a fundamental right to freedom of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other forms of communication, freedom of peaceful assembly, freedom of association. This was adopted by 338 members of Parliament, including our Prime Minister, who voted for that motion to send that message. So I stand with all of you, and we will pray for all of the young people that are taking it forward. We're talking, we're pushing, but they're living it. And I pray that they will be safe, and God will give them the strength to carry this to the next step forward, along with Madam Rajbi and NCRI. Thank you very much.
Dear friends, thank you for this opportunity. Together with other colleagues in the Friends of a Free Iran intergroup in the European Parliament, we have been closely following and supporting Iranian struggle for freedom and for equal rights. Women in Iran have been in the front line in the fight against Islamic fundamentalism, which the theocratic regime imposed on the Iranian society by hijacking the 1979 revolution. They have kept the freedom movement alive through all these years with great courage and enormous personal sacrifice. Thousands of women, including girls as young as 15 or 16, as well as pregnant women, have been executed by this regime for refusing the theocratic rule. We have been watching with admiration the risings and protests all over Iran in recent months. The participation of women is key for the success of freedom movements. In fact, one of the ways to measure the democratic nature of political parties or movements is to look at the role that is played by women. Therefore, I am glad to see that today, the Iranian women play an important leadership role in the opposition movement, and the fact that the National Council of Resistance of Iran today is led by a courageous woman, Maryam Rajavi. As elected parliamentarians living in democratic societies, we have a duty to stand up for people who are fighting in other parts of the world to benefit from the same rights as we have achieved in our societies. From all indications, we can see that after nearly 4 decades of brutal and anti-women rule of the mullahs, that change is about to come to Iran. The people of Iran have said it clearly. We do not want to be ruled by fanatics who have ruined the country during all these days. I really look forward to the day when we can work together in a free and democratic Iran. Thank you very much.